Today we're going to talk about neurological cramping. If you're an athlete who's historically suffered from race day or training cramps and you feel like you've tried everything to solve them but can't quite figure it out, it may be that you're part of a substantial number of athletes who suffer from neurological cramping. And in this video, we're going to go over some of the things you can do to help prevent neurological cramps. All right, first we're going to go over some of the signs that you may be an athlete like myself who struggles with neurological cramping. Number one, the timing of cramps. If you're a neurological cramper, you have probably experienced cramps at the start of an event or at the start of training, seemingly out of the blue because you should be fresh, you should be well hydrated, and yet you suffer from cramping. And this is one of the main signs that your cramps are independent of anything other than neurological reasons. Number two, your cramps don't seem to be related to any particular conditions. You're just as likely to cramp if it's cold outside as if it's really hot or humid. And number three, your cramps seem to be irrelevant to your hydration or your electrolyte status. Just like the other two, you may cramp at the beginning of a workout and at the end of a workout and not know why that's happening. So now let's talk about why people get neurological cramping. And this has been proven in research that many people suffer from neurological cramps because of essentially overactivity or hyperactivity of our brains stimulating our muscles. And the reason why so many neurological crampers can't seem to find a pattern in why or when they cramp is because the reasons are counterintuitive to all the other reasons one might cramp. First up, neurological crampers tend to get cramps after rests or after tapers or after long breaks. And when they start working out again, their brain sends too many signals or hyperactive signals to their muscles, and their muscles overfire and we get a cramp. So unlike the other reasons for cramping, whether it's fatigue, hydration levels, electrolyte levels, neurological cramps tend to happen when people are at their freshest. So knowing that, how can we go about preventing cramps during big training days or particularly at the start of big races? First, let's start with some of the major supplements on the market that say they can help with neurological cramping. Hot Shot is something that's given out at a lot of races, and yes, there is research saying that some chemicals in peppers and in apples can help relieve neurological cramping. But there is no research definitively proving that by ingesting those particular chemicals, we actually relieve neurological cramping. So on the one hand, yes, supplements like Hot Shot are connected with helping with neurological cramping. All we really know is a correlation, not a causation, that this will actually help you. So until the scientific community can figure out supplements that definitively work, what coaches and athletes have found over time to be the best way to prevent neurological cramps on race day is to more evenly dose out your training so that you don't find yourself taking a big rest before big efforts. Because like we talked about earlier in the video, neurological cramps tend to come on after periods of rest, going into periods of hard work. And we're talking a few days to a week or 2 weeks of a decrease in training, and then getting back into it is when most people would experience neurological cramping. Of course, that sounds like a long distance endurance taper where you work really hard and then you back off for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks leading into the race. Well, that's gonna set people who are prone for neurological cramping up to get those types of cramping. So if you're an athlete who has trouble cramping in their big events, in my opinion, by far the best thing you can do is spread out your training over a longer period of time so that you're fresher, closer to the race date, and you don't need that big taper. So kind of resetting the mindset on, I want to dig a big hole and then rest my way out of it and race. Because the truth is, that's not really beneficial for any type of athlete, but particularly for someone who suffers from neurological cramping like myself and like several athletes I've worked with. So again, simply take the last 5 weeks of a training plan for a long distance endurance event and space out the bigger days and space out the rest, so you're taking more rest earlier in the training cycle and avoiding having to take a lot of rest in the last week to 2 weeks before the race. And you'll probably find yourself not dealing with those cramps, early onset cramps, nearly as often.